What?
So the first podcast that I chose is the Impulsive podcast. This is pretty popular. It's the one by Logan Paul and the other guy who's Mike Madlish or something. I'm getting his name wrong. But the reason I chose this is because of an insight I got from their video editor. So Caleb Carnow, he's an editor. His story is pretty cool as well, how he landed that job. Like he grew an Instagram page and then he cold emailed them about some stuff and then he got the job. Besides the point though. So this podcast has 5 million subscribers on YouTube, which is pretty substantial for YouTube, as you know. And every single episode, they have clips that just flood the internet, TikTok, Instagram, and they get millions of views. And what I think is really cool about this is their take on distribution. So usually podcasts are made on, okay, what's the most value I can provide to my audience? What do I want to say? And then they think about, okay, how do we market this? If you're a smart person doing a podcast, maybe you think about marketing in different ways before you record it as well. But how Impulsive does it is every single episode when it's being recorded, Caleb looks for, okay, what are potential hooks? What are things that can be viral? And he kind of bookmarks those things in his mind, or maybe he uses a tool, but he bookmarks those clips as the thing is recorded. So this allows for a social first way of recording episodes, which I think is very fitting of that particular podcast, because the vibe of it is you're getting access to your favorite internet personalities or celebrities, and it's a casual hangout between friends, and you feel like you have a seat at the table. You're not tuning into the episodes for learning something very specific. Sometimes maybe that's the case, but I'll just scroll through some of the titles and I'll read them out. You'll get an idea. So their thumbnails don't have any questions or any quotes. It just has the names of the people that are on the show. So they really feed off of the Logan Paul virality, or people know Logan, and whoever comes on the show, they're a famous personality. And the title is some shock bait kind of thing. Like the most recent episode is Leah Halton on clavicular overdose. I know we chatted about clavicular a couple of days ago, but you get the vibe. It's some
Okay.
controversial pop culture controversy title, and it has famous people on the thumbnail. And their social first approach is really in line with that, because you have a lot of very hot topics being discussed and you can just clip them as hooks, and that brings the distribution. So that's what I really like. I'll make like a few other observations. I made notes in my Iron Man notebook.
Nice. How professional of you. I
Yes.
didn't.
Yeah, so they're optimizing for things like shares and comments, so engagement as well as likes, and it's embedded into the whole episode. I already talked about the spot on the table. Like you get access, not really information or tactics, it's access to your favorite celebrity when their guard is down and they're chatting with the bros, so that vibe. It's very high energy, so every time the energy kind of dies because of whatever reason, Logan will steer into a tangent that starts some controversy. So it's very high energy, ADHD, topic switching at times. The demography is huge. So it's 15 to 40 years old, anybody who enjoys like internet culture or consumer culture, pop culture. So huge, broad demography. Some of the comments are interesting. So I looked at the comments what people say about it, and they say
My favorite part.
it's wild. It's surprisingly deep, which means they were expecting people to just shoot the shit, and then they find, okay, there's some stuff.
I mean, Logan Paul doesn't strike you as a particularly complex human being. Yeah. But it's great that like some deep stuff comes out of those discussions as well.
It's cool because I've watched a couple of episodes when people I know were on that show, and there's something very relatable about somebody explaining something complex, and both Logan and Mike, they just have an epiphany, and that's satisfying. I don't know why. Like I just like the idea that it unlocks something for them, and
Can you
that was
relate an
cool.
episode?
Yeah, yeah. So there was an episode about Hormozy. So Hormozy is a very big business dude. I have his books. I'm a big fanboy. So he was breaking down a lot of things. One moment that I remember particularly, maybe this is a false memory, but Hormozy said something along the lines of, so this is going to be the surprisingly deep part. He said something along the lines of, why don't you kill yourself this moment? Like, what is stopping you from
Okay.
unaliving yourself? And then they were like, yeah, it's my family or it's my mom, or they had some answer. And then Hormozy was like, well, that's literally your meaning for life at this moment. So it was a very simple reframe of what stops you from doing this thing at this very moment. And that is literally the point of your whatever in your own words right now. And that just unlocked like this whole reframe moment for them. They're like, whoa, I never thought about it like that. That's so true. So I mean, that was the moment that I remember. But also with a lot of the business, like models, mechanics, courses, he was explaining stuff and they'd never thought about money or business mechanics that way. Logan is a very successful business person, but
Yeah.
his whole thing has always been media. Like Jake and Logan, both of them, like they were at it from the Vine days. So their whole thing is media company attention, 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 and that's how they build their entire. And they're really good at the internet. Like it doesn't matter if they don't know what a B2B like I mean, I'm sure they do, but because they made Prime, but they have done really well for themselves because they figured it out.
But doesn't Logan Paul have like a kind of a boxing business? Some kind of like
Yeah,
fighting business besides his
yeah,
career, but
yeah.
what kind of,
Hmm.
I don't know what kind of
Yeah,
business.
yeah, yeah. So Jake Paul is the one who became amateur to professional boxer. So both of them started training for fights as rich dudes do once they don't need money anymore and they're just doing side quests. And then they got into fighting. Fair on them. I mean, they could do nothing and do drugs, so they did something that's actually worth some. I don't know. I respect boxing a lot, so they started training and then they got better and better. And Logan had a stint in the WWE after a few YouTube fights. I think they fought other. That's a whole thing, like KSI versus Logan, or I don't know if it was Jake versus Logan, but they put on YouTube shows, which are, I think, right after the COVID, which became really, really viral. And you have to imagine that a lot of internet culture people, they don't care about Anthony Joshua fighting on a Tyson Fury. Both of these are boxers. Like
Okay.
boxing or sport. Yeah, exactly. It like precisely. People don't care about pure like Olympic wrestling or like nobody really cares about the sport like the majority. But when their favorite YouTuber is gonna have a like KSI is followed by millions, Logan's followed by millions. When their favorite YouTuber is gonna duke it out in the ring, everybody. So it brings a lot of eyeballs into the sport, which is a good thing. And then, of course, some of them do convert into, okay, let's see what this boxing thing is about. Even if it's like 1%, that's still more attention than before. So that's how they created a whole sequence of fights. And then, of course, Jake Paul, Logan's brother, fought Mike Tyson, which was funny. And
Who did
he
win?
also, Jake Paul won. Mike Tyson's 65. He had a knee
Okay.
brace. He was hopping in the ring, bro. Like,
Doesn't sound like a fair fight.
it wasn't, but they sold the hell out of that fight. Like they
I can
brought in
believe that.
old prime time Mike Tyson clips, like the demon in me. So I don't know if you how much do you know about Tyson? Are you
I
like
know
have
that
you
he bit off someone's ear.
twice the same person's ear, both ears in two fights?
Why did they fight him again after the first year? Like,
I mean,
I don't know.
the
This
first
is a
fight
Van Gogh type of shit.
the first fight was not settled, and so they fought again, and Tyson did it again. So that Evander Holyfield is the name and they're actually chill now. They have a podcast episode where they talked after many years.
They told their ears
Tyson
off.
yeah, Tyson is a whole thing. His career and his whole story is worthy of, it'll take a long time. But just to give you some cliff notes, he was the baddest man alive or the scariest man alive. Like, he had some iconic moments, like in the ring, where once he was crying he was crying because of what he would do to his opponent, and he was being genuine, and it was really scary. Like, you see a dude crying and you're like, oh no, I hope he's okay. And he's like, no, there's this demon in me. I want to eat his children. I want to kill his. I want to make sure his daughters don't have a fight. Like, he would say some deranged, like crazy shit. And what was scary is it wasn't like an act. That was sort of who he was. He had a hard upbringing. He had a difficult life, and he was very like he was very troubled in his own words. So
It
he was
sounds very
scary.
funny inside.
Yeah, but yeah, well, I'm telling you, probably you need to see it. But with Evander, it was when Tyson was out of his prime and he went to jail and he came back and there was a lot of stuff happening. So I think he did that like whole thing out of frustration because he couldn't beat somebody for the first time in his life, and he needed to, like, the animal instinct of I'm just gonna bite this motherfucker, like, that came out. So
But like, is that allowed in box? It doesn't sound like a
no, it's not a lot. It's a DQ. It's an instant. You can't bite your opponents. You can't do that.
well,
You
like,
can
are
do
you
it at any.
disqualified if you do that?
Yeah, instant disqualification if you do that stuff. So he
Okay.
lost those fights. Anyway, so Tyson fought Jake when he was 65 and he couldn't walk and it was just really bad. But it made a lot of money for them both because it was marketed really well. So anyway, that's the whole boxing situation. Just to wrap it around, like wrap up the I know you went on like a whole tangent. But
Yeah, but it was very interesting.
to wrap up the podcasting, so they use controversy as a feature almost of the podcast, which is a way of doing it, and for sure it gets, from many internet personalities, Andrew Tate, Clavicular, that controversy, you know, makes you money for better or worse. It just gets eyeballs, and their whole they record a podcast which is 3 hours, 2 hours long. They turn it around in a day. Like clips are out, videos are out. So their workflow is
It's
pretty
very fast.
regimented. They've been doing, yeah, they do 1, 2 episodes a week for many, many years. So very consistent. That's the first like interesting podcast that I wanted to show. Any thoughts, questions?
Well, I mean, you analyze it more from a business marketing point of view.
Yeah.
But like from a personal point of view, still, like, is it something that you enjoy watching because it's fun, or like, do you think it's interesting most for how they work and what kind of business they do?
Yeah. So while researching, I did click on some of their clickbaity shorts, even though I didn't care about the person at all. So, I mean, it works. They have some very interesting titles. I was like, oh, let me just check it out. But when I know the person, I will see the episode. So the Wim Hof, if you know, he's the breathing technique guy who did a lot of swimming in the Arctic and the Atlantic. So he learned breathing from meditation and from, I'm not exactly sure, but he is associated with the monk meditation spirituality world, and he did
Okay.
some crazy feats. So he swam in under sub-zero water for many times, for more than would be possible for a normal person. Like you'd die of hypothermia. But he did it many times through breathing. I don't know. I'm going into Wim Hof now, but I know him, so I clicked on that episode and watched it a little bit. Hormozy, I watched the episode, even though Hormozy's usual content isn't this. It's just seeing a person that I know in a different context, explaining to people he wouldn't usually talk to. So for me, it's if I know the person, I'll see it. I'm not a long time, like, I'm not subscribed to the channel, if that's what you're asking. But it works definitely. I mean, it's a huge media company. It gets millions of, probably billions of views a year, and they monetize it. They build their brand, so it works for them.
Okay. Unlike you, I just brought podcasts that I love to listen to
Okay.
for different reasons. Like a good counter altar to Logan Paul podcast is the Magnus Archive.
Okay.
It's a cool podcast started in 2016 by Jonathan Sims. It's part of the Rusty Quill universe. They now have many more podcasts and stories, but what I thought was very interesting is how they create fiction through narrative. And the interesting thing is that the podcast feature is how the story begins. The story begins with an archivist who records tapes, and you are unweaving the stories as you are listening to those tapes, aka the podcast.
Interesting.
So I thought what was cool is that the recording feature is native to the story, and
Okay.
you kind of are part of the story as a listener, because that is how you listen to tapes. And if you want to read the Magnus Archives, you read the transcriptions of the tapes. So you don't have a fictionalized prose version of the story. And it starts as an episodic film recording of tapes by the archivist Jonathan Sims that has the same name of his voice actor.
Okay.
And this is a unique instance in the podcast. The other characters have a name different from their voiceover actors. But I felt like I wonder how much he recognizes and identifies himself with the main character. It says that you go to the Magnus Archive to make a statement and face your fear. What they do is keep a record of paranormal or weird, inexplicable happenings. So if you had something happen to you, like being swallowed by a door that doesn't exist, this is where you would go to make a statement. That is, if you have survived. And
Oh.
so you either have Jonathan reading statements and recording them, because the story starts when he gets promoted to archivist because the previous one has disappeared.
Yeah.
It sounds like
Unexplained.
a very unexplained. Yes, just disappeared. Nobody knows where
Yeah.
she went. Gertrude Steiner. And
Yeah.
apparently she left the archives in a state of complete disarray. And the
Okay.
first episode or two, he is there, like he bitches on the fact that nothing makes sense. They are not categorized by date. They're not categorized by theme because there are different fears. And it would make sense to keep them like
Organized.
in theme.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But when you start listening to it, when you get to episode 40 or something,
Yeah.
you start seeing some patterns repeating. And it's cool because you are there figuring out basically alongside
What
with the
happened?
what happens. Because the character, what I really like about the character, he is very cynical. He lives and works in an archive dedicated to the paranormal, and he's constantly dismissing very difficult to explain things.
So that
Why
he
would you work
experiences.
there? No,
Right.
he doesn't experience those things themselves. He
He's
reads
just reading it.
he reads the statements or records a statement from someone who
Yeah.
physically goes to the Magnus Archive and says, I wish to make a statement.
So
And there are
sorry to interrupt.
strange things. Please go on.
I have a couple of questions. So it's like there's three things happening. One is we're trying to figure out what happened to the old archivist or what's going on. So there's that situation. We also feel some impending doom, like this for the person who replaces that person, because he's also taking statements. He might also disappear. Why are things in chaos? But there's also the intriguing entries by the people who come in, and they're and I'm guessing that's also entertaining in a horror kind of way. You're seeing, okay, what did they experience? And so those are the three things that really stick out to me. So as a listener, are you also curious? So what keeps you going on to the next episode? Is it just the overall trying to figure out what's going on, or is it also the entertainment value of each individual entry into the archives, or both?
Each episode has its own unique fear and story, but they are kind of linked by this sense of morbid, slow building horror. And every time I listen to an episode, if I feel, especially when I was in the first and second season, where the plot hadn't thickened enough yet, I wanted to kind of peer through the keyhole and see what disgusting things would happen. One episode that has stuck with me was this man who had gone to make a statement about his upstairs neighbor, because he would constantly come home and smell this kind of like a rotten meat smell and have some stuff leaking from his ceiling. And that
Oh my
went
God.
on for years. And he had contacted the landlord, police. Nothing would explain that until
Yeah.
at some point they opened the upstairs flat and found it completely covered, like actually packed.
With dead bodies?
No, with raw meat. The entire place was not just packed as in like you stumble across, it was filled solid with raw meat. And that had leaked this kind of gooey stuff. that had basically created a biohazard and they had to take down the building. It was
That's
the
crazy.
description was so disgusting. And
Yeah.
Jonathan acts it so well as
Yeah.
he acts the archivist acting the statement.
That's creepy.
It's
Um,
creepy. But at the beginning, it starts like this is Jonathan Sims, archivist of the Magnus Archives. Today I'm reading the statement of Margot Robbie and her
yeah.
fear of Barbies. And then it goes, this is Jonathan Sims, archivist of the Magnus Archives. Today I'm reading the statement of one Margot Robbie and her fear of Barbies. He like gets more into the role
Yeah.
and it makes it feel 100 times like more lively.
Very cool. Has there been an attempt to turn this into some sort of animation or like a show? I think this is a really cool
I don't
idea.
think so. I don't
I
think
see.
so. It's still kind of a niche show.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Is it
not
over?
a podcast that everyone would know.
Is it done? Is it over? Or is it
Yes, the
ongoing?
Magnus Archives. Yes, there are 5 seasons. It's around 200 episodes. So it's quite long. There are a lot of
Have you
things
seen it?
happening. I have to finish. I have the last 5 episodes left.
Okay, fair.
Now the plot is very different. I miss the first days where it was just a statement and it was just like eldritch horror, like this sort of morbid, grotesque curiosity that drove me to keep going. And I would listen
Yeah.
to like 10 episodes a day,
Yeah. They're how many minutes? 20, 15?
25.
Yeah. Crazy. That's a
I
really
would
cool
pack them
idea.
before bed.
Of
It was
course, because
amazing.
you
Of course.
that's a little crazy. Well, I mean, I used to read Reddit creepypasta at night as well, so it's the same thing,
It,
right? Like same vibes.
it would kinda like the thing that I liked, especially listening to it before bed, was just it took so much out of me, the listening, that
Yeah.
when I went to bed, I was limp. I was exhausted.
I I don't know if that is a desirable state to be before bed.
You're
What were
very
your dreams
relaxed.
like?
Crazy.
Yeah,
The
there you go.
second podcast I have is about dreams. So that makes sense.
I see. So, yeah, you're setting yourself up for a dream movie that is horror themed.
It's going to be amazing. But now they also have other podcasts within the same universe. One is called the Magnus Protocol. I don't know what that's about. And they also have one that seems really interesting called All Gods of Appalachia, that is
Okay.
based in the one eldritch horror place in the world, Appalachia, where apparently
Yeah.
there are magnetic fields that mess with you.
You've seen the Appalachian TikToks and reels, right? Of people experiencing weird stuff. And if you hear somebody call your name in the Appalachian Mountains, never go, like all of the creepypasta horror stuff.
I would go. I want to know what that is. So I don't know. I would never come back, but I would be so curious.
Have you heard? This reminds me of a very unique incident. It's called the Dieppe Pass incident. Have you heard of it? Does this ring a bell?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
The
So,
cross of horror and mountaineering.
and reality. This is also a real story. So,
Yes, it's true.
yeah, just let me set the audience up, even though it might be our friends later. The Dyatlov Pass incident is so some of the best or some very experienced mountaineers, they went on a risky expedition, but this is not the kind of thing you just decide to go to. You have to have a solid 10, 15 years of experience, very rough terrain, long hike. And this was near Russia or somewhere in the
I think
Russian
it was
mountains.
in the Urals in
Yes,
Russia.
it was in the Urals in Russia, and they found, well, all of the mountaineers died. I mean, this is a horror story, post memory, so or post horror story, so of
Spoiler,
course,
everyone
spoilers.
dies.
But that's not. I mean, I don't mean to sound morbid, but mountaineers dying in difficult terrain is not as good of
It's
a
nothing new.
story. Yes, it happens. but the circumstances of these mountaineers' death is what was alarming. The whole group was spread apart. One dude was missing his tongue. One dude was naked. Well, most of them were naked. And if you're a skilled mountaineer in sub-zero temperatures, you would never take off your clothes. You would never you would never it just would not happen. You wouldn't even do it by mistake. Like because you're just gonna freeze. But all most of them had taken off their clothes. There was footsteps of one mountaineer that ended in a ravine. One was on top of a tree. One was, had broken ribs. So the whole thing was a freak incident with no logical explanation. Why would mountaineers in the middle of the night strip naked, run to different parts? One would be missing a tongue. It just doesn't make any sense. And it's one of those stories that has drawn so much internet attention, everybody speculating. There was a nuclear warhead test and the radiation made them go crazy. It was aliens. So it just had the whole 9 yards of stories attached to it. So that's how much I remember of it. So Veronica, what do you think about this whole thing?
If this happened in the Magnus Archive universe,
You'd believe it.
it would probably be like the domain of the flesh. That is an
Yeah.
avatar, the avatar of a fear, and the flesh uses bodies to sustain itself. And it
Uh-huh.
tends to do this kind of like big sacrifices. Otherwise, I think there are other fears that could explain it. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, but the collective hallucination seems plausible at first when you say it, but it's kind of tricky to have so many people experience a collective hallucination, and
Yeah.
like they would have to like assume something, some kind of like either mushroom or kind of a drug that makes them all go out of their heads.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't
Yeah.
affect everyone the same.
Same way. Yeah. I mean, that also creates more questions. So every explanation of this incident creates more questions than it gives you answers. So
Absolutely.
who administered the drugs? What drug was it? Why did they take off their clothes? It's just so insane. But
I
yeah,
think
the
this
Magnus
theory was,
Archives. Yeah,
I
go ahead.
think there was also another theory that it was a setup
Yeah.
and that it was actually a ritual. They were
It
sent
was
on
a
this path,
it
a
was a
ritual.
what now? Or a ritual?
It was a ritual. They were sent to this path to basically being sacrificed to something else.
Yeah. Again, more
It would,
questions than answers.
yes,
But
but it
in
would
the
make
in
sense
the
with the tongue and the
yeah.
tree and the state of this, like these behemoth, like of undress and the state of undressing.
Yeah. In the current global landscape where we've learned about all sorts of rituals being done by people who control world decisions, it's not as surprising as when I heard it when I was young. I have more inclinations to believe the ritual theory. So yeah. But
As Nico would
perfectly
say, it's the
yeah.
Satanist cabal that controls the world.
Imagine quoting Schneeko, or that's what his new channel is. But there you go. But yeah, perfectly in line with the Magnus Archives. I am actually very curious. I don't like the idea of listening to this at night before going to bed, but I will
Trust me,
give
it's
a
the
few
best.
episodes to listen. Yeah.
It's the best.
I will trust you and still choose not to do it, but yeah, noted.
But also, like, I like listening to it when I do very mundane things like loading the dishwasher. From the horror of the Magnus Archive to the different kind of horror, that of business, or at least what I assume that Open Repository is about, and
Open
that scares
residency.
me. Open Residency. I can't do it.
Yeah, cool. So are we moving on to the third pod now?
I would say so. Yes.
Okay. Open
Open
residency, it's yeah,
Residency.
I will keep this. It's not very different from other business podcasts. I like listening to this because the people who are brought on are very deep in execution. So they're not just people who come up with ideas. They're people who run businesses and brands day to day, so they know what's going on current, like what's working, what they're doing right now, which is I like it. It optimizes for trust and building a community. So even though it has like 30,000 subscribers, you aren't subscribing there unless you are into business. This is very tactical. It doesn't explain a lot of terms for people who are new. So a lot of frameworks are they go over them. They assume you have some knowledge as an operator, but that's the context. What I really like about this is the set. It's very minimalistic but high production. So it's just the speaker and the guest, and it's just a shade of gray with lights. Sounds a bit dull, but the point is all of the focus is on the speakers and it doesn't appear cheap. So it's very high production. And one of the guests there, he made a point where there's so many podcasts which we're now contributing to as of today, that set design is a differentiator going forward. So if you don't signal high production value, it's almost as if it's not worth the viewer's time because the team didn't spend a lot of time producing it, even though the content could be good. And there's something to say for a low fidelity content, so it's just very authentic, very raw. But I think in the domain of podcasts, when you're asking for an hour of somebody's time, a way of standing out and also signaling that it's worth their time is just having a very unique, interesting set. So that's why I really like it. And it's a very different model from Impulsive. Impulsive is broad, caters to everybody. The Open Residency, it's very niche, only talks to operators. They want you on their newsletter so that they build a community. I don't know how they monetize. I think they monetize with some exclusive content. So it's OnlyFans model vibes, but with
Do
business.
they have
So
a Substack?
I think they do. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think they do. They have a newsletter for sure. Maybe not Substack because even if they do have a Substack, it's a channel to their people's own newsletters. That's where most business owners want to take their audiences to a newsletter because they own that list as opposed to another platform. And if the platform gets disrupted because of whatever reason, the algorithm or TikTok bans or whatever, it doesn't affect them as much. But it's a cool podcast. Its hooks are usually credibility or a very high impact business question, like why did you kill off this business that was making $100,000? So very specific or demonstrates credibility, just completely different. But I do like listening to Open Residency because every time I come away with a framework or a tactic that I can use to improve my decision making, which is important because now execution is very AI oriented.
Yes, you mentioned the set design as a differentiator. And I mean, it's a differentiator of the production. It's also a differentiator of the speaker in a sense. Like what you consume kind of classifies you,
Yeah,
and you use what you consume to position yourself in
yeah,
line with your vision, your perspective of what your positioning compared to others.
yeah,
So there is also that. And
yeah.
probably with their set design, they also say they are kind of subliminally saying, hey, this is not for
Everybody.
newbies.
Yeah.
This we only want certain people. And I was wondering about their monetization since you mentioned it. It would make I wonder, like, I don't know. I never listened to an episode. I don't think I am their target. I think I am a bit too green for to be their target. But who do they invite? Do the people who go there pay to be there, or are they paid to be there? Is it for free? Like, do they offer masterclass and courses? Because that sounds like a possible avenue for monetization.
Yeah, good question. So I think everyone who is a guest is in the network or the initial episodes. They have 200 now, I think. The initial episodes was within the network of the host, who is a business operator himself. He had a brand or maybe has a brand called Iconic Art. So he used to sell or does still sell canvas art. I think they're based in the west
Cool.
coast of the US, and the business is selling art essentially. And he also had an e-commerce brand that he scaled to, I think, some 10 million or whatever. So he's a business owner himself, and the initial guests were people within his network that he wants to learn something from. So they run a media business or a social media business, maybe a YouTube centered business. So a couple episodes I saw, one was by Caleb. Caleb, what was the name of the Callaway? Sorry, Callaway is the YouTube person who's very well known in the space. So they had Callaway on, they had Colin and Samir on, who are like thought leaders in the YouTube space as well. They had Oren John, who's a creative director.
Okay.
So he had that person on. He had Dan Martell, who grew his YouTube following a lot. So those are some YouTube episodes because I watched those. But he also had different e-commerce operators, brand operators. So everybody is a current business brand owner or operator who it's my cat.
It's so cute.
Yeah, that's her tail.
Does she have a split? Does she has a split tail?
She has at the end bones of her tail are broken. We suspect that somebody did it to her when she was young on the streets. We adopted her with this, but now I like it. It looks like a flower, so we have adopted it.
I thought it looked like the Korean small heart.
Yeah, I wish I could show you, but my cat's not chilling, so it'll have to wait.
No, let her be.
Anyway, how do they monetize? I think for these sorts of businesses where the hosts are business operators themselves, there's two big objectives. The first is to build a community because a community of business owners, of course, people who are running their own thing, they have more purchasing power than your average person who are employees because they own their own thing, and of course, it's that's how capitalism works. If you own the means to production or you own assets. If you own assets, you are at an advantage in this game.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. So with this particular demography, there's no quick way to monetize. You can't sell them creams or glasses. That's not what it's about. However, if you have them in a list that you nurture over time, that list becomes extremely valuable where you can monetize it by allowing brands to advertise on your newsletter. That's an easy way to do it. The second is the guests sometimes have their own products. So they have Callaway has his app, like a SaaS app. Oren John has a course, Cut 30, which I took. So the guests sometimes have their products, which the audience, if they really like their stuff, they're gonna go into that funnel. But for the podcast itself, I don't think they want to monetize it immediately. They want to build the list. They want to nurture it. They want to get the goodwill of their community, and eventually they will have the option to do what they want with that audience. But it's really building the credibility of Mark. Mark Brazil is the name of the host. It's building his credibility within the entrepreneur community because he's talking to these thought leaders. He's a student. He's asking the right questions, and he is putting himself out there as someone who curates these conversations. So I don't think there's a short-term monetization objective there. It's just putting together really valuable content that doesn't exist by talking to operators as opposed to CEOs who don't execute. Their role is different. They're not executing it
Yeah.
in their job. So I think that's the strategy there.
So yeah, content as a part of a larger operation that
Yeah.
monetizes something else, like a different part of the business that is not the content.
Yep.
And that makes sense for like some places and some people.
Let's go on to your number 2.
Yes. And my number 2 podcast is a dream analysis podcast. It's called This
Okay.
Jungian Life. And
Okay.
it's hosted by Lisa Marciano, Deborah Stewart, and Joseph Lee. And I'm saying this while hearing in my mind their intro music because I've
What
watched
intro
so
music?
many episodes.
Oh,
Their
their
intro
intro?
music. They have
Okay.
an intro team that says Lisa Marciano, Deborah Stewart, and Joseph Lee in Virginia Beach, Virginia. That's where one of them works. Anyways.
Okay.
And I started listening to this during COVID. Like,
Okay.
I think 90% of people on this earth. And I remember that the first episode I tuned into was about the figure of the selkie. For
Okay.
each episode, they take a theme that could be a social theme, like, I don't know, maybe lately they have done something about manosphere since the Literal documentary came out, or sometimes they take a myth and analyze it through Jungian lenses. And
Okay.
after that, after the main part of the episode, they have 20 minutes in which they analyze a dream that one listener has submitted. They have an
Mhm.
open submission document where you can
Okay,
write
that's cool.
down your dream,
Okay.
and they decide whether to, like, they have many submissions. They also have a Patreon where they interpret the dreams of the
Mm.
Patreons of the Patreons. And I got into it because I was reading Jung.
Yeah.
I was reading Men and His Symbols, and I don't know how much of an introduction to Jung is necessary here. He was a
Mhm.
he is a famous psychology of the
Yeah.
past century,
Yeah.
and he developed this system. I don't know if it makes sense to call it a system. I think it's more of a philosophy as of
Mhm.
now, where basically you don't talk about the psychologist, but of an analyst, because it's more about like the analysis of the inner symbols, or how
Yeah.
your unconscious constructs symbols and meanings, and
Yeah.
but what by understanding your own inner mythology and how each symbol relates structurally to the others, you can interpret your dreams. And there are many ways to do that and to foster a connection to the unconscious. That's the
Yeah.
phrasing, foster.
Let me just interrupt for some
Please.
things. Jung is responsible for some of the terms that get thrown around today, like shadow work. That's
Yeah.
Jungian. Oh, my cat is leaving. There is also the idea of the archetypes. So the clown, so clown slash jester, the king. So all of these archetypes, these are Jung's work. He also wrote the Red Book, which is pretty intense.
Yeah.
There are also a lot of, so he took a lot of the work of, I don't want to say he took the work, but Freud had a book which I have summarized, The Interpretation of Dreams, and he took a lot of Freud's, he built his own thing from work that started with Freud. So
I
Freud
mean,
is also
he, Freud
good.
was his teacher,
Yes.
after all.
Yes.
But
And Freud is, of
unlike
course.
Freud,
Mhm.
I mean, Freud is very much focused on sexuality and how
Yeah.
pretty much everything a person does, dreams, thinks, is related to some kind of a like sexual repression or sexual
Yeah.
desires.
Mhm.
I think Jung goes a bit farther with
Yeah.
his analysis and admits that, yeah, actually people don't 100% of their time think about sex. They have
Yeah.
other things going on that may be
Again,
presented through sex, but maybe that
yeah.
is not the point.
Yeah, he cut like a layer deeper. But one another little interesting anecdote maybe is what a thing that I learned about Jung was his, I think it was called the orientating reflex, which is something, it was an attempt at an answer to why you like the stuff that you like. Like, why do you have hobbies? Why are you drawn towards certain things? And he tied it back to some signal from the collective unconscious about your personal development. Besides the point, but anyway, so Jung did a lot of these interpretations, analysis, and the podcast you're talking about are people who are Jungian and they do that analysis on people who submit their dreams. That's really cool. Did you ever send your dream to be analyzed?
Yes, I
Okay.
sent many dreams and they
Okay.
were analyzed twice. One of them
Oh.
in one of their recent books.
Oh.
So my dream it's in the book with the
Whoa,
analysis. It's
whoa,
very
whoa,
cool.
whoa, whoa! I'm talking to a celebrity right now.
I don't like right I don't know. It was peak moment in
Yeah,
my life when I
yeah,
got a personal email saying, "Hey,
yeah,
that's stupid." I got their email saying, "Hey, do we have permission to use your dream in our book?" And I said, "Hell yeah."
yeah.
Please use it
Wonderful.
everywhere. Publish my name. They didn't, obviously,
Yeah,
because they're anonymized. Or
the
they
names.
anonymize all submissions,
Sure.
even in the podcast. So it's very cool. You can submit whatever. They will
So,
have your email, though.
so your podcast feed into each other. You would have fucked up dreams from the Magnus Archives, and then send them for analysis on
This
the
was
name of
way
this
before
dream
I
school.
started. I mean, this was way before I started listening to the Magnus Archives, but I think since I started listening to the Magnus Archives, my dreams have become so much
Movies.
more interesting.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, how you would do it if you wanted to foster this connection to the unconscious and do some shadow work through your dreams is that
Mm-hmm.
you start keeping a dream diary. You log your dreams. That could be through voice notes or by writing them down when you wake up. And
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like you are knocking on a door and someone on the other end knocks back because the unconscious it feels like the unconscious is listening to you and it knows
Yeah.
this is that you're listening. So the the response to your attention to your dreams is getting more dreams that
Uh-huh.
take you on a journey.
Where has that, I'm guessing you did do some of these exercises. Have they helped in any, well, help maybe not the word, but have they given you some insight or what have you learned from this?
I Now, this is the part where I'm clearly not selling this.
Okay.
This has not helped me.
Okay.
I don't know if I've learned something,
Okay.
but I had so much fun. Like, I had dreams that were multi layered. Like, for example, I had this dream one night where I was somewhere and something happened with someone.
Okay.
And in the following dream, I had lost my memories. I started the dream as my dream character had no memories. And it was a theme in the dream. But
Mhm.
me, the dreaming person, my actual brain body, knew the story that the dream before. And so it knew that I had lost the memories temporarily because it
Okay.
was part of another dream.
Okay. So it was like a
I don't know.
series, a dream series, like
Yes,
one
it
episode
was like
carried on.
yes.
Interesting. You
And
should
in one of my
flesh it
dreams,
out, write a story with you,
it would be
with,
cool.
I would
And
watch that.
also,
That sounds cool.
maybe the peak moment of my dream. In one of my dreams, I kissed Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. This is
Okay.
something you don't recover from. Like nothing else will ever measure with that. But it
Yes.
was like in front of me, there was like Viggo Mortensen dressed as King Aragorn,
Okay.
like the last of the Numenorians. And he was speaking Elven to me. I was
Uh-huh.
like very much swooning. It was
Yes.
amazing. It was such a cool experience. It was
Now
very
you're back to now you're back to
nah.
selling this again.
Yeah, this is a selling. I mean, you
Yes.
could dream of being kissed by Aragorn. This
Yeah.
is something that
That's
could potentially happen.
easy sell. There is a lot of work that people like had a scene about somewhere. No, she must hunt. But there's a lot of work done about trying to control or influence dreams. You remember they have this, I don't know if you saw this.
The
They
lucid
had
dream.
this lucid dreaming, yeah. They had an eye mask that would detect your REM and it would show you a faint light, like a red light, that you were supposed to train yourself to recognize without interrupting your sleep. You're supposed to recognize you're dreaming, and that would give you some moments of knowing you are dreaming. There's a lot of attempts, and I see the allure because dreams are essentially very mysterious, and it's a realm where you can experience so much without any downside really. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are downsides, actually.
Okay.
But like the first step towards controlling your dream would be to be aware that you are dreaming. And I don't know when I became aware, but most of the times now, I know that I'm dreaming.
Really? That's crazy.
Yes. Yes,
That's not normal, by the way.
it's normal to me and
Yeah.
it's very cool because like maybe if I tried I could make something happen, but the cool
No, of
thing is
course.
that, but I want to see where it goes,
What
so I just
happens?
go
Yeah.
along with it. Yes, I don't
I would
wish to
love that. Yeah.
I don't wish to modify it
Control it.
because I know that my unconscious has so much more cool stuff in there that I could
Yeah.
ever fathom.
For sure. I mean, contr just being able to spectate it, because when you wake up, you forget a lot of it, right? You just remember bits and pieces. And after 5 minutes, it's just gone. So just being able to spectate it while you're in that state, that's amazing. But that's not a very usual. Like I've never met somebody who was aware in their dream. So maybe that's your shadow, like all the work that you've done here.
I think it's because I have invested a lot in my relationship with the unconscious. I genuinely love it. And I don't know, even the shadow that has appeared many times in my
Mhm.
dreams, I have a very positive opinion of it. And it feels like a friend
Nice.
when I dream. Even though like my dreams are mostly like horrors and I get chased around, sometimes I get killed and
Yeah.
I witness unspeakable tortures. I
Yeah.
know that there is a message for me there.
Interesting.
I sound like a new age
Woo woo
something.
person. Yeah.
Yes, woo.
No, no, I
But
believe you.
a downside was that this happened to me in a dream, the dream that ended up in the book.
Okay.
And to give you a little bit of context, was a dream where I woke up from a heart surgery. So
Okay.
I was having the surgery and I woke up from anesthesia and I
Okay.
said, why am I not dead? And they told me
Uh-huh.
it can happen that you stay alive for a little bit, but don't worry, you will die. And
Uh-huh.
then I discovered that the surgery was about removing my heart.
Uh-huh.
And they had my heart in a shoebox. And like I could feel like the emptiness in the chest. I could feel
In your
that there
chest.
was nothing there.
Uh-huh.
And like the dream, the rest of the dream was me, like at some point kind of like getting freaked out by the anxiety that I was not dying.
Dying. Yeah.
I kept living without a heart, Davy Jones kind of like. And at some point, the anxiety took over and was like, no, I got to reattach this thing. I need to find
Uh-huh.
someone who reattaches my heart. And then the rest of the dream, I was looking for someone, anyone who could help me. And at the
Uh-huh.
end of the dream, I had run out of time, and the doctor told me that there was nothing to do, and I knew that I would die. And I was very sad for my heart. And
Uh-huh.
I woke up with a very intense chest pain, and that
Uh-huh.
lasted for like 2, 3 days. Like
Oof.
yes, I was like, did I have, I don't know, a heart attack or something? Like, did something, because I had this physical pain and it
Discomfort.
felt like, yeah, it felt like
Did you
someone
get it
had
checked
really
out?
like beaten me down. No, I didn't get it checked out. No. Would I go to
That's
the
insane.
doctor saying like, hey, I had this dream and now my chest hurts?
Well, you leave out the I had this dream part.
Yeah, my chest hurts. It's
Yes,
probably
exactly.
anxiety.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
But the Davy Jones thing, Davy Jones is an completely unrelated. Davy Jones is an underrated character, even though he's very highly rated, in my opinion. Do you agree?
I love him. I
Yeah.
think he is the best part of the trilogy.
I haven't read any of the stuff, but
No, no,
his whole
the
the
Pirate
movies.
of the Caribbean trilogy. Yes, the movies.
I haven't seen all the
I was
movies.
talking about the movies.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movies, all of them, but I really like the dynamic of Calypso and Davy Jones. Calypso was her name, no? Or am I getting
Yes,
it
it's
wrong?
her name. You have seen
Yeah.
the movies then. It's
No,
the
no, this is me stitching
movie
together
one,
things
two,
from the
and
internet.
three.
No, I've not seen it. This is just I am a chronically online person, so I know lore
Okay.
of things I have not seen.
It's almost like
Yeah,
honestly, I think his response was very much justified.
Justified. Yeah,
I don't know, like he was very in love with her and finds out that basically he's just like a plaything to her. It
yeah.
was an acceptable reaction within the universe.
Fair enough.
He
I
was
will.
misled. He was in a very bad situationship.
I will. I will. Yes, he was the OG situationship victim. I will reserve my comments for when I actually plan to see the Pirates of the Caribbean. I think it's really cool, and then I will tell you what I think about it. But there was a song online that talked about this dynamic between Calypso and Davy Jones. It's a very hauntingly beautiful. I don't know if somebody did it or it was featured in the new movies, but it's very hauntingly beautiful. It's those I want to say almost sad classical vibes, but it's not. There's a vocal is there.
He
It's
plays
very
the
pretty.
piano. He actually plays the organ in the movie, and it's a
Okay.
very sad melody. But he plays the organ with all his tentacles because
I
he can
I
reach
I
all the.
think I think someone wrote lyrics over that melody and they sang it, and they're very good at singing. So it was very.
Hmm.
It's probably just fan made. I'll try to look for it, but it was so pretty when I heard it. It's so cool.
That would
And
be
the
so
idea of
cool.
heart just in a box at the bottom of this is just so poetic. It's very nice.
Yeah, poor dude. Like, I can definitely relate to that from a
Yeah.
personal experience.
Particularly after your dream.
Yes. I
Cool.
never thought about this, but it was a kind of a Davy Jones situation dream.
There you go. And you have to get a Flying Dutchman.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I think that's a wrap now. Hey, this is Adrito.
Hey, this is Veronica.
And this is our No Strings Attached podcast.